Will April.
How are you?
I'm all right, hanging in there.
Great to see you. It's great to see you. Welcome to Monday Meets. This is the Willow's mostly weekly chance to talk with staff about the programs that they have going on. I'm Will April. I'm the Director of Communications here at the Willow. And joining me today is Megan Luttrell to talk about our new educational program, which is a community collaboration with Be More Like Claire, and something that I'm really excited about because it's a brand new program that we're introducing into the world despite the pandemic, and getting out there into things. So if you have any questions today about the program or any questions about anything that we're going over here, do feel free to leave them in the comments section on Facebook. We will try to keep an eye on it, and I'll try to answer questions as they come through. If something occurs to you later on, I will put our emails at the bottom, not only of this exchange, but also when we put it on YouTube, we'll throw it on there so you can feel free to email us with any questions. We would love to hear from you, love to hear what you think about what we're doing, what the programs, what about the programs appeal to you. And this one is particularly exciting because it has a community element. Many people have reached out to ask how they can help out with the Willow. And right now during the pandemic has been a very tricky time to do this. And this is one of the ways we can. So without giving too much more away, Megan, I would like to say thank you so much for coming in and talking to me. Would you go ahead and just start by kind of introducing your title and your kind of back history of like, what did you do before the Willow and how did you get to the Willow?
Okay, my name is Megan Luttrell. I am the Youth Prevention Coordinator at the Willow, as Will, just eloquently told you. Basically, I was in addictions counseling for a number of years. I went to Washburn University and got my 2-year degree in addictions counseling and started working in the field in Topeka in 2011 with a program called New Dawn Wellness and Recovery Center. So I worked in Topeka for almost, I would say probably around 8 years, 7, 8 years. And I really enjoyed that field. And it definitely prepared me to become a human trafficking advocate when I got my job on September 6th of 2018 with the Willow Domestic Violence Center. And so that was something that absolutely prepared me for my position as an advocate and working for the Willow. You do see, I did work with several survivors when I did work in Topeka that were human trafficking survivors that had severe substance use disorder. And as through education, I learned that that was a tactic that was often utilized by traffickers to control, manipulate, coerce somebody who is being trafficked. And oftentimes that is used for survival sex as well. And so I was able to learn a little bit about human trafficking when I worked in the field of addictions therapy and counseling in Topeka.
And so it seemed like kind of a natural fit to move forward into advocacy rather than substance abuse counseling.
Yes.
The trafficking side.
Oh, absolutely, definitely. It was just kind of like the transition was pretty smooth based on that. I think you kind of have to have a little bit of a history before working with human trafficking survivors, especially working with trauma-informed care in that capacity, because you really have to look at the community systems approach with a survivor and really know how to integrate, make referrals, those kinds of things. And so if you go into it blind, I think that would be a really difficult position. So fortunately, I'd had some background experience that helped me navigate when I started at the Willow. That really was beneficial to me.
So you've had training on both sides of the Willow services, domestic violence and human trafficking. Is there anything in particular, any piece of information or any thought that or statistic that sticks with you that you didn't really know before but kind of came out through learning about both domestic violence and human trafficking?
Probably I'd say the most shocking part of it was I had never really been able to conceptualize what survival sex was. And so understanding that someone is having sex for food, shelter, drugs, transportation, gas money, was all kind of new to me, because when I looked at human trafficking, I had a lot of the same misconceptions that a lot of people have, even coming into the field as a human trafficking advocate. And the survivors are the ones who taught me a lot. I could go to school for years and, be book smart, but when it comes to actually getting knowledge about this, the survivors are the ones who I would go to and ask questions, because they would tell you direct information. You were getting, accurate information from them about their experience and their worldviews. And so it was something that was really impactful to me, was learning from survivors about human trafficking and having a lot of my myths and misconceptions challenged.
I think it definitely is interesting because we do when the outreach and prevention that I've done surrounding human trafficking, there very much is that sort of mentality that it is like something out of Taken, that it only happens to either Americans abroad or foreign citizens, and everyone's shipped over, and it's all international. But what certainly was eye-opening for me was that it really is anywhere in which there is a major transportation sort of hub, which Lawrence happens to be on I-70 and I-35. That sort of human trafficking takes place, and it takes place on a regular basis. So yeah, that I definitely see how that would be something. That was something that stuck with me. So I can totally understand how it stuck with you as well.
And I think someone said something really impactful at one point. It was Rebecca Bender when she came in February to speak. She said, human trafficking is anywhere there are people. It happens anywhere there are people. It doesn't have to be in a big city. It doesn't have to be on an intersectional highway system. It can be anywhere. A lot of the rural communities are impacted from it because there's not a lot of access to community resources to give them the education that they need to know otherwise. So, that's something that has really broadened my perspective of it does impact rural communities and impacts anywhere there are people.
So I know that when you were the human trafficking program coordinator, there was a large educational part of that role. That was one of the programs that you kind of piloted, was a curriculum for schools on human trafficking. Can you kind of seg us into how that led you to your current position?
So the human trafficking, the ninth graders at Lawrence High School and Free State High School, through their health courses, are encouraged to take a human trafficking course. Of course, it's optional and the parents can opt them out of that. But when I was building the curriculum, I was really thinking about how do I get the message across to students that, these myths and misconceptions aren't true, and how do we integrate that into the curriculum, and how do we keep them engaged, not thinking this could never happen to me. And so what I utilized as I wrote the curriculum, I utilized a lot of real survivor information that was passed on to me through experience. I utilized some TED Talks that were extremely impactful and powerful. I utilized Rebecca Bender's story, which the first time I watched that was extremely eye-opening for me. And so as I wrote this curriculum, I had to really think about, when I was their age, how would I receive this information? And how would I understand that if a friend was going through this, or if I was going through this, what are the community resources? Who are the people that they can reach out to and talk to? I think that I had to really kind of get in a different mindset. And so as I wrote the curriculum for my new position, I'm actually writing the curriculum to train adults. So I had to kind of switch my brain off from the how do I think like a teenager writing curriculum, and how do I transition this to more of adult thinking? So it was an interesting challenge for me. I'm not going to say it was easy, because it was not.
Right.
But it's kind of me doing both sides of that. So I've learned a lot, and I've shed some tears doing the process of writing curriculum, because it is a mind-blowing, intense experience. It is very intense.
Well, and particularly, and we'll get into this a little bit more, but particularly when you're in kind of a post-pandemic world where we were talking earlier about all being separated from each other, and from feeling like the part of the organization as a whole, because a lot of people are working from home, and so that makes it a whole different, that adds a whole nother layer of this sort of solitude to what's already a pretty solitary pursuit. But let's talk about sort of the how this came to be, how this whole project and collaboration came to be. Do you want to kind of give us an overview of how it happened?
So Shannon Van Landingham had a daughter by the name of Claire, and I really want to, do Claire justice, because Claire lost her life on January 3rd, 2018, to a significant other, an ex-significant other, it was a murder-suicide situation. And out of, wanting to do something in memory of her youngest daughter, Shannon created an organization called #BeMoreLikeClaire. And through that organization, she has done so much for the community. And one of her passions is getting education out there about how to prevent youth dating violence as much as we possibly can. How do we, mitigate that in our own community? And so that's been something that she's been extremely passionate about. And so our partnership came to be through Shannon. And it's something that, when I first got asked to do this position, I remember driving home that night and thinking, I really have to do this justice. And hearing Shannon's story was really impactful for me in writing this curriculum. And so we partnered with Family Peace Initiative. And for the people who don't really know what Family Peace Initiative does, they hold batterers intervention courses. And so through the Willow, we are required to take art of facilitation. And through art of facilitation, we're exposed to a lot of different components that are part of the BIP program. And so they allowed us to use some of their curriculum and integrate some of that curriculum into our own. And so we partnered with them because there's a lot of very introspective work that's done. You've done art of facilitation, Will, and so it's a very intense experience. Like the River of Cruelty, the Enlightened Witness, talking about sexual respect and sexual disrespect. That's going to be part of the curriculum as we move forward. And so that's something that, all three of us, the Willow, Family Peace Initiative, and #BeMoreLikeClaire, which is a nonprofit, have all come together and decided we want to do a community systems approach to this issue. And we have a lot of passionate people on the team who believe that education is the key.
Something that was interesting to me, and I said it on a few of those early meetings when we were kind of figuring out what is this curriculum, what do we want it to be, was that initially I think the idea was that it would be something that you would deliver, and then it sort of evolved into something where you deliver it not directly to the source, not directly to youth, but instead to local representatives in the community who work with youth, and through that they are then able to train others and also work with youth competently and with that knowledge base, that Family Peace Initiative knowledge base. And also I think the one of the key things I remember was Shannon saying she felt like Claire had come to her for advice, and she had given inadvertently, because she didn't know any better, she had given advice that she now kind of regrets, and she'd been like, don't worry about it, it'll probably work out, it'll be fine, and it wasn't. And so what she really wanted was then to have adults in a position where if it came to that moment again where someone's like, I don't know if this is right or wrong, they could give that correct advice. So that was really, I think, the driving force in shifting it from a youth related to more of a mentorship and training of mentors, right?
Yeah, I really like what you say when you say mentorship, because I think oftentimes as adults we forget what it's like to be that age. And there are a lot of people in my life, throughout my life, who came through and were non-judgmental, were non-biased, were just simply sat with me and held space for me. And I remember those people. And that's something that we talk about in the training, is the Enlightened Witness. And training people how to be enlightened witnesses. because when we should people or we tell people what to do or we have our own agenda, that can really push someone away from us. And sometimes we give people misinformation. I mean, we all do. And so I think that having adults learn this information, yes, it's going to be not only a mentorship, it's also going to be enlightened witness. It's going to be, it's going to be continued learning for adults, because once they learn the curriculum, then they can pass that on to others. And so through that, we're building relationships, we're empowering our own community, we're strengthening our communities a lot. And so that's something that I think has a really powerful impact, is that being able to hold space for somebody who comes to you with that information, because they may not want to leave the relationship. And it's like an average of 7 to 8 times before someone actually leaves a violent relationship where there is abuse going on. And oftentimes that number is higher. And most certainly we've all been impacted by it. All of our lives have been touched by dating violence, domestic violence, intergenerational violence, you name it. We've all been impacted by that at some point. All of us have.
So when people, and actually let me just take a moment to say we're kind of you're about halfway through here. If you have any questions you want to ask either Megan or myself, please feel free to put them in the Facebook comments. We would love to hear from you. Any questions or thoughts or reactions to what you're hearing. We are, again, this process is still in development. This curriculum is still in development. So we would love to hear any input that you have. But just going back to it for a moment, for folks who don't really understand the concept of an enlightened witness, can you kind of just touch on that real briefly? Because I think there may be, some people might think there's some religious overtones to that, but it's not a religious thing. It's more of a knowledge base, right?
Yeah, it's basically a person that you can go to that is gonna just, like I said, kind of gonna sit with you in the moment. Alice Miller, if anybody wants to do more research on the enlightened witness, terminology, Alice Miller coined that term. And so really it's just a powerful, and it can be a very short-term relationship, which is what's kind of cool about it, is that a lot of the people who were my own enlightened witnesses were very, they were kind of short-term in my life, but they made a huge impact. And the way that they did that was, like I said earlier, non-judgmental, empathetic. They were, they were willing to just sit with me in my chaos and sit with me in my trauma. And they weren't advice givers. They didn't want to fix me, but they made me somehow feel empowered and like I mattered. And that's really what I think we're aiming for with this training, is having adults be a point of contact for youth and saying, you know what, you matter, and you matter to me, and your voice matters to me. So I really think that is really what the Enlightened Witness is about.
So we are opening this up to, we're reaching out to some people who we already kind of have an idea of who they are, but then who would be eligible for signing up for this training once we've got it, and how will they go about doing that?
That's going to be still kind of a work in progress, that we're still kind of in the development stage of that. What we conceptualize happening is that we're going to have an application process initially. So we will have people apply to take the training. And so through that application process, we'll, have people come into the trainings, and those people then will be responsible for finding people that they think are influencers, people that they think, have contact with youth and could be, would be a good representative, would be a good steward of the training that we do. So we're really looking for good stewards of that. And so we will have a process where we do take applications. It's not going to be super extensive, but then they will pass that on. So really it's still in that developmental stage, but our vision moving forward is that, yes, whoever takes our training will then be able to train others. And they will receive, a facilitator training. We'll have another separate training guide for them. and they'll be able to pass that information on with fidelity, because that's something that we're really big on, is passing this information on with fidelity, because we want to honor Claire and we want to honor Claire's memory. And so we really want to make sure that this information is taught to others in a way that we feel would be fidelity to what we have written.
Well, I am very excited about kind of taking a training and seeing it in action. Now you had one kind of practice, one test run training already, and moving towards kind of the first steps of actually starting the training internally in our organization, right?
Yeah. So right now we're doing the pilot trainings. I do have some of I'm scheduling the quarterly trainings that we're going to be doing. So I will be, opening that up to a listserv of people that, we have determined would benefit from this training. And so we're in that stage as well. But right now we're doing the pilot trainings. We're doing it with, the legacy board from #BeMoreLikeClaire and the board members. We've also opened it up to Willow staff for the pilot trainings. And the Willow board. So we do have kind of a broad scope of people who can take the practice trainings. Our first one is going to go live this Saturday from 8:30 to 4:30. Our second pilot training is going to be Monday and Tuesday of next week. And those are going to be evening trainings. So what we've done is we've done a 2-part series on those, because we know there's a lot of working people who cannot attend like a Saturday training or an all-day training. So that one's going to go 4 to 8 on Monday and Tuesday. And then we are also going to have a Thursday training as well the following week. That will be 8:30 to 4:30. So there's a lot of different options that we've integrated into. The board members and staff from Willow can sign up for if they choose to do so. And more information will be disclosed about the quarterly trainings coming up. And if somebody wants to schedule a training, they would have to go through the application process, which we're also in the development stage with. So.
Awesome. Well, I always like to kind of wind down with a few kind of questions that are more directly about you and your experience at the Willow. So what changes or advancements or areas would you like to see the organization, either your program or the organization as a whole, grow towards in the next few years?
Well, I mean, the obvious change, that I think we've all struggled with, is that we're all separated right now, and we have a really strong connection. All of us that work at the Willow, we're all a little off and a little crazy in our own way, and we all have a real strong connection. So I'm hoping that within the next year or 2 years, we're all able to kind of come back together. I really like what we're doing right now. We are growing the agency, and I think that that's kind of the trajectory that we're going, is opening our new it's not necessarily transitional living, but another shelter for survivors in the community, which is greatly needed. So I think that we're really going in the right direction. But I think the main thing is that I miss my coworkers a lot, and I'd really like to be back in an office setting with them at some point. I mean, I have to be honest, but I think we're headed in the right direction. I really do. So
I tend to agree with you. I think there's a certain energy that you can draw from. I've worked kind of in the private industry and in banking and in a lot of different areas, but I've never had a role in which the passion and commitment of the people around me is so apparent as is in the Willow. And I really find that to be a really inspiring source and a well to draw on. So to not have that energy kind of going back and forth, it does feel a little bit lonesome and you feel a little bit lost sometimes. Just not seeing folks on a regular basis and not being able to kind of check in and enjoy people's company and enjoy people's ideas and thoughts and challenges. It's quite a community.
it really is.
What plans? So the first year, obviously, you're gonna be doing these trainings. How would you like to? How will this program develop? Now, I know that Claire was important to a couple of different communities around the country. So, what is the plan for the curriculum then? Will it become a larger than Lawrence curriculum? How's that?
Yeah, that's the goal. I mean, we've talked about it with Shannon, and that's the ultimate goal, is disseminating this training and curriculum out, hopefully to all 50 states at some point. And, you know, having this out there as, you know, a training that people can take. And, you know, she had a widespread impact. I unfortunately didn't have the, you know, honor to know Claire. But what I've heard from other people, she was amazing. And, you know, I know that her impact was felt, you know, far and wide. And so I think this is something that is going to definitely take off. And I don't think we really have a limit. I think, you know, whatever we decide we want to do with this curriculum, or however Shannon decides she wants to disseminate the curriculum out, you know, that's something that, you know, that's really cool. That's kind of our goal. So.
Well, I like to do a kind of nice last wrap-up question that's just a fun one. We kind of do a personal kind of shout out or something about you, maybe a fact about you that we wouldn't necessarily know, that's not work related, something you enjoy doing, animals, pets you want to shout out, family, anything like that, or events that you've got going on. And so the events part is kind of not really a factor so much these days, but anything you'd like to talk about before we close up?
Just that, you know, in terms of like animals, a lot of people wouldn't look at me and think I love lizards. And so I have a bearded dragon that is my baby, and that I like to do really crazy photo ops with, like pushing a shopping cart and riding in cars and sitting in doll houses. And I've been real bored since COVID started. So there's been quite a few opportunities to take photo ops of my lizard, living the life that I can't live. He's gone on a lot of vacations. He wears sunglasses, has hats. So yeah, that's probably been the extent of my social life. It hasn't been real exciting.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I hope all of y'all who are watching will join us next week. We have Jen Edens, who is our art program coordinator. We're going to talk about survivor art and maybe even get to see some and talk over some. So that should be quite exciting. Thank you, Megan, so much. Really do appreciate it. I hope you don't mind, but I'll throw your email on the YouTube rebroadcast of this in case anybody has any questions, and my email as well, if that's all right with you.
Works for me. That's awesome.
Awesome. So if you have any questions for either of us and you're watching the video, just give us a shout. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much, and have a great afternoon.
Great. Thanks, Will.
Bye.
Bye.